Hello there. He's hoping that all is well with you. Thank you for joining us on this CNBC Africa special. My name is Eugene and we're going to be talking a bit about the very important or crucial issue of IP, intellectual property. And of course, it is something that we need to really look deeper into. We'll delve into the area of gender diversity in this space. We'll also look into the startups and of course the issue that is a pain in most of those who have this intellectual property, and that is counterfeiting and the place of innovation as well. Of course, I'm not alone in this particular set. I want to introduce Kellen Twinamatsiko, who's actually from the Rwanda Development Board, and she's in charge of IP examination as an IP examination analyst. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much.
Also with us is none other than Angelos Munezero, who's actually a public sector digitization analyst with the Ministry of Innovation and ICT. Thank you for making time.
Thank you for having me.
Right, I'm going to start with you, Kellen. You have a very interesting role at the Rwanda Development Board, and I want to start first of all by understanding, the kind of role that you play at RDB, especially when it comes to IP examination, the analysis from that particular space, and what you see from where you sit in terms of the trends in the respect for intellectual property.
What I do with the role of an examination analyst at RDB, we do examination or analysis of the intellectual property applications. So once someone files, it has got to go through a check, particular criteria depending on the kind of IP application that it is. If it is a trademark, if it is an innovation and you're requesting for a patent, or if it is a utility model, or if it is an industrial design, or the different kinds of intellectual property applications go through different kinds of checks. So that is what I do.
Yeah, interesting. We might actually assume, and probably there's someone out there who probably would be able to pick one or two things from what you do. But then the next part of the question is the trends that you've been able to see in your analysis, in your role, as far as respect or lack of it for IP in the country.
There is a positive trend. There is an increase in the number of filings, first of all, but also the quality of the application document. Especially in that regard, I'll talk about the innovation sector, especially because that is where a particular format or particular way of drafting is required. Yeah. So we see an improvement from what it used to be. But also it means that they are able to interpret other documents and actually learn from other technologies, from patent documents that are filed elsewhere.
Interesting. I want to talk to Angelos because yourself, you've been within the space that is actually analyzing the public sector digitization process. We know that technology is actually playing a key role in this particular area, but of course that is where innovation is actually key, and those people who are actually innovating are the ones whose intellectual ideas need to be fully protected. Talk to us a bit about the significance of embracing IP and especially filing for this intellectual property from where you see it and what you see in terms of the trends, just like Kellen mentioned earlier on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anamgo, for a good question. Before maybe I just jump into that question, what I wanted to highlight is that usually the IP application or registration usually evolve along the economical development of a country. And as Kellen mentioned, when you look into the trends, there is that positive increment in terms of applications that are received through our DB or even people registering. But as you mentioned again, Rwanda is a country that has put in the front technology and innovation as the backbone of our economy and development in general. Right. We see a lot of, I would say, innovations and solutions emerging within our country. So it's an awareness that we need to do to ensure that more people still understand that they have to actually register their innovations. advocacy, support that need to be put in place to ensure that we have more people, more companies registering their IPs.
Right. Interesting. We've heard about the trends. Both of you have actually highlighted on that. But then, Kellen, if we look at the role of protecting intellectual property and its impact in driving innovation within the country, let's look at the correlation of these two. What do we lose as a nation if we do not protect the intellectual property of those who are innovating, and what do we gain as a country if we actually do the protection?
As a country, thank you for the question, first of all. As a country, there is a lot to lose. I will not talk about an individual, the innovator for that matter, but as a country as a whole, there is a lot to lose, because intellectual property is supposed to contribute to innovation and also to contribute to cultural development in the creative industry. Now, you find if a country does not protect, or if people do not protect their creations, they do not get the incentive. So if you make an investment in innovating, and that innovation that you have created, you have to compete to get market for that similar product. You won't have an incentive for actually going further into innovation, because you're not reaping the benefits. Someone is taking it lightly, yet you made a heavy investment to get that. But also technological development. If someone is not incentivized to innovate, you find that technologically you will lag, because there is no incentive in a sense. So as a country, we'll lose out on economic contribution, because these new products that are a product of innovation bring in revenue, generate revenue. But also you find that technologically you're not improving, research and development you're not improving, and then also culturally, because culture also grows. So there is a lot to lose, really. There is a lot to lose. Even the national competitiveness. Today, Rwanda is talking about foreign direct investments, creating an environment for investors. If someone has invested from their country, they've invested in research and development, and they know that coming to Rwanda, their product, their innovation will not be protected. That is also a hindrance to innovation, to foreign direct investment. So there is a lot to lose, really.
There's a lot to lose. Well,
yes.
There must also be a lot to gain. Let's talk a bit about that.
For not registering?
For actually registering, for promoting people to actually...
There is a lot to gain in registering. Yeah. Just flip side of that. You get the answer of that. But again, over and above registering and all those benefits, the economic revenue, but also the national image, really, because IP is a human right, in a sense. Yes. So if you don't give someone a right to their intellectual property, you're denying them their human right. Yeah. So when you register, it's also an indicator that the country respects human rights. Right,
that's a very interesting angle to look at it, or way to look at it. But then Angelos did mention earlier on that we still also have people who are yet to understand the importance, are yet to understand or learn the ropes of actually doing it. What is being done from the back end? Is this something that is giving you sleepless nights at RDB? And what are you doing about it? What are your targets? What are the numbers that you're saying by end of 2023 we need to have, incentivized people and made them aware of what they need to do and the processes? What are we looking at?
There's a lot that is being done. First and foremost, the rates for filing an application. In Rwanda, I think they're by far the lowest in the region.
How much are we talking about?
We're talking about 30,000 for a patent, and that is about $30. And compared to other countries where you find it's about $1,000. So that is really low. And then also the other side is that we are doing very rigorous awareness, year in, year out, throughout the year. All year round, we are doing awareness, going to districts, going to different platforms, and having all this rigorous awareness. But also, we are trying to automate our application process. By end of this year, our application, we are able to receive applications online, so that there is a higher uptake of the system, so that someone that is up country is able to to file
Yeah.
remotely. Yeah.
Right, interesting. Angelus, let's talk a bit about the area of counterfeiting. It's one of the pains of those who actually are creatives within the digital space, piracy as well. And I want us to understand how these activities are affecting, government's digitization process, but of course, what probably is being done from a policy level.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. First of all, the public digitization is a journey that the government doesn't do it on their own. So this means that we actually work with different people, innovators, and also some other established companies in the digitization of government services, which means now we need established companies and companies, of course, who have actually their IP registered so that we know, I would say, the expertise in the digitalization. But of course, it does affect I would say, the pace for digitalization, because as long as we don't have, I would say, more companies with the caliber that is needed for the digitalization, it takes more time. And yet we have a plan to have every government service digitized by 2024, which means the absence of these companies may actually push us to go beyond that target. But within the plans we have, we are sure that by that time we should be able to have all services digitized. But as you mentioned, we still have some companies that I would say are facing some challenges in terms of the justice when their intellectual property are not registered. But here what I want to highlight again is that intellectual property, of course, first of all, it's a property like any other property. So if it's not registered on you, like it will be the same case as if you have, let's say, a vehicle or even a plot and it's not registered on you. As Colin mentioned, we still need to do more awareness, which we usually do together, and even try to understand from our innovators, what do they need? Because sometimes the contexts are different. They may be needing different service or support that as a government we need to do to ensure that they are able to protect their IPs. But that's the road that we need to take to ensure that we do it well.
I hope you're already taking that road.
Yes, we are doing it.
Right.
Yeah, in collaboration with them.
Kellen, you mentioned something about the prizes and you mentioned something about the process and how you've made it, or you're making it easier. At what point, if you were an innovator, or if there's an innovator who's watching us right now, or someone has something that is so unique that they've come up with, at what point do they decide that this is worth going to spend the $30 on?
Very interesting question. Yeah, because ultimately IP registration should lead to business. So if someone is deciding to invest the money, whatever they're investing in for the filing, it should be worth it. But then I usually say that is a very slippery road to take, because innovations, it's difficult to determine what the product of innovation will generate. So what we have seen in the past is that someone creates or innovates and they think this is just a small product, and before we know it, it's become, the heat, and so everyone wants to counterfeit the same product, and so then they realize that this is actually I was supposed to have registered back then, and it's no longer possible because there are a lot of formalities that go into it for you to register. So what I would say on that in response to this, our system, our patent system, provides for provisional filing. Provisional filing. So you have a period of 1 year, while at the start, at least you have a prototype, or you are trying to develop the prototype. If you are able to fully describe the product, the innovation, you can file provisionally, and that is just 10,000. And you have a period of 1 year for you to be able to complete the whole innovation and file a complete specification. And so that is now, for me, a game changer for the whole innovation system.
So $10, and then you
work on your product. And then you can even decide in the long run that if you really want to go that way, and then go ahead and pay the 30,000. But also, some file after the prototype is really there and they're able to provide the full specification. They can still file along the way. But what happens is that people want to wait for commercialization, to first commercialize the product and see that this is actually working or not working, so I can file. Now what happens is that in patent system we have what is called the disclosure. Once you disclose and it is past 6 months, then you can no longer file, you can no longer protect. So I would really encourage everyone, innovators that are out there, first file, it doesn't hurt. You don't want to take that risk because it might be very expensive in the long run.
Angelos, I mean, I know startups are listening, and most of them, the small businesses, you know, they would want to be able to actually put that investment. But we know a majority of them have many other, you know, needs. They have many other priorities. They have even funding challenges. Working from the ministry that is actually picking up some of these projects within the digitization process of government you know, services, what sort of assurance are you giving them that, look, we are actually going to be or are the biggest consumers of your innovation, so go ahead, invest in actually filing for these projects because we are going to come for it? Because we've heard from different quarters, some innovators have always felt that, you know, a majority of the innovations that are actually being taken up are actually not local. It's mostly foreign, you know, innovators or innovations. How do you encourage the young innovators within Rwanda that actually they are on the right course? They can spend that $30 because Angelos and his team are actually waiting to use the innovation within the ministry.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anangwe. Yeah, that's a good question, and we're here to give them not only assurance but also the practice that we have currently, which is actually giving them the chance to contribute to the digitalization journey that the government have embarked on. And I will start with an example. Earlier I highlighted about the plan we have to digitize all service by 2024, and what we are doing right now is to actually to put a call for all innovators, startups within Rwanda who are ready, who have the capabilities and the capacity to support in that journey, to apply for the call. So it's like we have a lot of services that we want to digitize, and we don't want one company to own that tender. Rather, we want more companies to be on board and to contribute to that. And the way we are doing it, actually, we are even calling them ahead of time to discuss with them, telling them all the needs that they have to fulfill to be eligible to apply so that they can contribute into their development. But aside from that, as we are talking about intellectual property registration, actually, we have also to think of what usually feeds into the registration of IP. So there is something that you need to do before, which is the investment into the research and development so that you have something to register. So there is also the need from the government, but also our development partners, to support our innovators when they are at that very early stage of investing into the research and development of working or prototyping their solution. So with that, what the government of Rwanda is doing is to enact a startup act. So that's a law that bundles together incentives that support innovators to actually grow and scale their solutions. So within that startup act, it includes some fiscal and tax incentives, but also there is some support in terms of IP registration and more other support that are provided to the startups. So we are currently in discussion with all stakeholders, government, to see how we can finalize the Startup Act so that it can start to benefit our startups. But we look at it end to end to ensure that we are supporting them at that ideation or early stage level until they're able to protect and also to develop their solution to benefit from it.
Right. Interesting. Kellen, I've heard of young innovators who've said, I'm not participating again in some of this call to, share your idea or your innovation in a competition format. And some of the arguments they've had, some have been valid, and one of them has been, you know, they just turn you down, but go ahead to steal your idea and then better it because they probably have all the resources. Other than this issue, what else are you hearing from those who are seeking to, you know, file their ideas or their intellectual property? What else, when you put your ears on the ground, what else are you hearing that probably you want to work on and restore the faith?
In the IP system?
Correct.
Thank you. First and foremost, that complaint they are raising is not because of the IP system. It is because they don't understand what the IP system provides. It is such a bad idea for one to exhibit or to expose their invention or innovation before at least seeking the provision of filing. And I could never emphasize that enough. It has been one of the greatest destroyers of innovation, because one exposes it, and so when it is stolen, they can no longer work on it. But truth be told, this is the person that initiated it, so no one is better positioned to develop it than the person that started it. Yeah. So that is a very big problem and a big challenge. But the other things that we know about, that we hear, the complaints that we hear about the IP system and innovators, especially the young innovators, is that ownership, Angelos mentioned funding and investment in research and development. The other issues that keep arising is benefit sharing. If an external funder funds the project, how then do we share the benefits? And IP has solutions to all that they're stipulated. So there are so many ways of commercializing, but of course at commercialization level we've also seen challenges, and we've seen so many ideas sleep, let me not say dead.
I like the fact that even if they're asleep, there's room to actually wake them up and build them into better things. I want us to start wrapping up, and I want to talk about the area of gender mainstreaming. And of course, we understand that the World Intellectual Property Day did actually focus on this particular theme on women and IP, accelerating innovation and creativity. Angelos, what is the significance? What's the importance? Maybe for someone who doesn't have the idea. Why is it so important that gender equity in this particular sector is actually given top priority?
Yeah, thank you so much, Anangwe. So, yeah, that's a good question. And to answer it better, we touch on the backgrounds, not only of Rwanda, but also for many African nations where women in the past days have been, I would say, treated in a manner that, let's say, for technology-related things, I mean, those are for men, you don't have to invest or to go in it, which of course, culture-wise have affected us in the past years. But now, because again, Rwanda is a country that have almost 50-50 of male and female, we needed to have that, I would say, investment from all sides, be it female or male. But again, because there was that time we invested actually in promoting male for technical-related activities, again, we need also to put that, I would say, incentive or support for females so that they are able to come into this field. So the reason why I believe that it's very important, again, I will highlight an example, even though you mentioned about the malpractice of the calls that usually used to steal some good ideas from our innovators. But from also our ministry in collaboration with RDB, we always, from 2021, we usually on a yearly basis run a competition called Hunger Pitch Fest. And that's something that we launch ourselves. We don't hire someone to do it on our behalf. But the reason why we're doing it is to actually, I would say, promote this culture of innovation, because we still have more people who really don't want to invest in it. And yet this is what will actually take us, drive us into the knowledge-based economy. So within the 2 Hunger Pitch Fest competition that we ran so far, the winner have been female. The one of 2021 The first one was a female, as well as the one we launched back in December 2022, it was a female. So this means that we have a female who are able to even outperform men. And that's the reason why we need to support them also through that route of the registration of their ideas, because now we know that they have even that ability to have attention to the details, which we men usually don't have, which also comes with, of course, customer satisfaction on the product that they work on. And within the other startup pack that I mentioned, we are outlining different mechanisms on how we need to support and also encourage that gender parity to ensure that we have female and men participating in this space.
Right, interesting. And I know we are time bound now, but I want to understand from you, Kellen, first of all, as a woman yourself, within the space that is actually supporting in registration and filing, we know that women are seriously underrepresented in terms of their use of IP rights, and therefore this means that very few women are benefiting from the IP system. How does that first make you feel as a person within that space that is actually supporting or analyzing these issues? And how do you connect that to this theme, and where do you see this bearing fruit in encouraging more women into the space?
Thank you. First of all, it doesn't make me feel good, because I would love to see more women participating, because I know women can. Like you mentioned, we've seen that before. In Rwanda, but also in other places. But seeing the statistics, according to no particular study for Rwanda, but internationally, the percentage of women that are cited in innovations in filing at international level is 16.2%, very low a number. And so it doesn't feel good, but you see, I have hope that things will get better. Initiatives like this, having a particular day to raise awareness and to tackle these issues, gives hope to what is that tomorrow will be a better day, that tomorrow women are going to file. And of course, as we continue to talk about, Rwanda was ranked the best place to be a woman in Africa and the 6th in the world. With that drive, and because one of the major hindrances to filing or to even innovating is the gender bias. So as that bias is gradually broken, you'll find that now women will step into their potentials. And over and above the technological that we seem to emphasize all the time when we talk about intellectual property, we have other forms of intellectual property. That fashion industries are women-dominated industry. So it's not like really women are not participating, but when it comes to how we look at things, the way things are being measured or looked, the lenses through which they are looked at, probably the numbers come down. But when you look at like the fashion industry, women come up with fabulous designs, and these designs are new, they are unique, they are original, and this can also be registered as intellectual property. So I call on women to find that they have created in the different forms, be it technological, be it design, be it a trademark, startups that are owned by women, companies that are owned by women, even women-led companies. Make sure that your intellectual property is registered, and that really raises the numbers, it raises the involvement, the participation, and of course, if Rwanda strives to achieve a particular goal, for this case to talk about Vision 2050, Vision 2035, or becoming a knowledge-based economy, or all those ambitions that we lay out in the goals, this cannot be achieved without women. So I think women can really play a leading role. It's just understanding it in the correct sense and them arising, being deliberate. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that's all the time we had for this conversation. I want to say thank you so much, Kellen Twinamasiko, who is the IP examination analyst. Thank you so much at RDB. Thank you for making time.
Thank you so much.
Also with us, we had from the Ministry of Innovation and ICT, Angelos Munezero. He's in charge of public sector digitization analysis as an analyst right there. Thank you for making time on the program. And for you who's been watching, thank you for making time. And this conversation doesn't end here. And of course, we know that you can continue being part of it. and you can tag us along our social media platforms at CNBC Africa. And as always, my name is Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye for now.